Number 8. Marie Curie's apparatus. In the 1980s, a doctor was in attendance at the Mutter Museum, part of the College of Physicians of Philadelphia. We don't exactly know why he was there, but it was a good job that he chose to be around. Why do we say that? Because he identified a source of potentially dangerous radioactivity on the premises. Where was this dangerous source located? The answer is possibly surprising. An exhibit donated by none other than legendary chemist and physicist Marie Curie. Crazy, huh? With her husband Pierre, she took part in groundbreaking experiments that helped reveal the presence of radiation and its benefits to the world. By 1921, Marie was alone, Pierre having passed away years before. She was touring the United States and decided that the couple's piezoelectric apparatus would make a nice gift. Piezoelectric refers to material that makes a charge when put under stress by a machine. If that sounds a little complicated, then the explanation behind the actual device is more straightforward. It was the first ever measuring instrument for radioactivity. Now we mentioned the apparatus was donated to the college in the 1920s. What did this 1980s physician do that was so noteworthy? Well, he asked if the Curie's invention had been tested for radiation. Turns out, no, it hadn't. Crazy how this little detail didn't occur to people here. But then, in fairness, the Curies themselves didn't understand the damage radiation could do till later. Also, the apparatus had been in a case which probably protected people, but anyway, the revelation caused concern, and rightly so. Thanks for the gift, Marie. If only we'd bought you something. A block of uranium, perhaps? Number 7. Victorian wallpaper. No, you're not hallucinating. Wallpaper? Damn straight. Wallpaper can be very dangerous. At least it was back in history. And you know what? If you had wallpaper which contained arsenic as an ingredient in your home, you may have well started hallucinating. During Victorian times in the 19th century, people liked having garish, elaborate-looking paper on the walls. All very striking until you find out what's in the green and yellow coloring. In the case of Sheila's green, for example, the invention of a chemist with the same name, copper arsenite was used to give the required effect. The wallpaper manufacturer, William Morris, had arsenic-infused designs in his home, so it was seen as pretty fashionable. He figured everything was fine, and that stories of customers growing sick and dying were connected to something else. What he didn't understand was that the arsenic was being released in various ways and getting into people's bodies. For example, the color would flake away and be drawn into someone's lungs, or if the conditions were right, vapors were produced. Morris hadn't seen anyone expire in his home, adding to his skepticism. But what he maybe didn't realize was that the young and the aged were the victims. Other age groups could cope with it, though it ain't exactly something you want in your respiratory system, right? By the late 1860s, the problem had been exposed and arsenic was taken out of household wallpaper. It had taken a surprisingly lengthy amount of time for the situation to be acknowledged, with warnings going out well before production was stopped. We should add that arsenic was used by Victorians in cosmetic products and even food. So maybe it wasn't a shock that it all went under the radar. Number 6. Lawn darts. Some childhood games made sense at the time, even if they turned out to be highly dangerous. As well as the rough and tumble of the playground, you could enjoy hazardous activity within the confines of your own home. Lawn darts capture this mood of excitement and danger perfectly. Looking at them now in their original form, it's amazing they got off the drawing board, really. Wouldn't you say? People sure enjoyed playing with them, and they're iconic in their way. However, they also gained a nasty reputation for seriously injuring human beings. Measuring approximately 1 foot, lawn darts were held by the stem and thrown through the air. The heavier and, most importantly, pointed end would find its mark via the power of gravity. That mark was supposed to be a lawn, though sometimes it hit someone's body. The darts had around 4 decades of success before being taken off shelves in 1988 once the dangers became increasingly apparent. The darts, or jarts, were out of people's lives. Well, that's not quite accurate. The ones that got purchased over the years were still used. This led the CPSC, Consumer Product Safety Commission, to repeat its warning to the public after the original ban. The tips could be made from either plastic or metal, but the product was dangerous either way. Also, we should add you can still buy lawn darts, only ones with a safer design. These are blunted rather than pointed. They look like they could give you a good bump on the head, to be honest, but hey, at least they aren't killing people anymore, right? Number 5. Cosmos 954. While space travel is often accompanied by a sense of wonder from the public, We'd bet a lot of money that most people don't know what kind of stuff goes into these incredible space launches. If they knew a bit more, they might stay home rather than gather in crowds to check out the cosmic action. Some things that go up are on the dangerous side, and guess what? They come down. And when that happens, all manner of chaos can ensue. A good example of this is Cosmos 954, which was part of the Soviet Rorsat program in 1977. Designed to look down on the oceans from space, this reconnaissance satellite blasted off with a nuclear reactor on board. Excuse me? A nuclear payload over everyone's head as it shoots up into the sky? Yeah, that's how they do it. Anyhow, it's pretty safe, right? The idea is the reactor detaches from the satellite and is ditched amongst the stars for ET to worry about. In this case, however, that did not happen, and it stayed very much connected to the Cosmos 954. On re-entry, the satellite broke apart and dangerous debris landed on the north of Canada. Beyond awkward. So what happens in a crazy situation like that? Well, Canada had to clean up the mess, though ultimately the bill went to the Kremlin. Several years before Cosmos launch, something called the Space Liability Convention was brought in. Russia was clearly to blame, right? No contest. The Canadians launched Operation Morning Light to remove the debris. It cost them a reported $6 million. For whatever reason, the Soviets didn't stump up all the dough. They only paid half, which sure adds insult to injury, huh? As we said, going into space can be awe-inspiring and wonderful, yet it can be also messy and expensive. Number 4. Backdoor CIA Toolkit. Working for the intelligence services often requires agents to display total dedication to their country. In America, you have the CIA, of course, and they arguably put their operatives through more punishment than most. Check out this pill-shaped object, which was an important piece of an agent's kit. Question is, where do you stick it? In your pocket? Well, maybe, but it'll be a little obvious in there. Can't risk it going in your bag. You know what? You should put it in the place it was designed for, inside your body. And we're sure you probably worked out where it is by now. If you haven't, well, this is a family channel. Basically, it's going somewhere where the sun doesn't shine too much. While you get your head around that idea, let's talk about what this thing actually does. It's a container in which you'd find tools. What kind of tools? Well, you'd probably wince, but knives, saws, drill bits. If you ever get in a tight spot, you'd simply pop the case out and access what you needed to extract yourself from trouble. We're not sure if this potentially dangerous toolkit is still being used today. Even if we knew, we couldn't tell you. Our lips are sealed. It's certainly a relic of the past and can reportedly be seen at Washington, D.C.'s International Spy Museum. Guessing this is one exhibit people aren't keen on holding in their hands. Number 3. Deadly chemistry sets. While the name chemistry set may not mean much to the younger generation of today, they were a big deal back in the 20th century. If you were a kid back then, you could actually handle the materials you might find in a real-life chemistry lab, and manufacturers did not skimp on the detail, as you're about to discover. As well as Bunsen burners and old-school glass test tubes, you open the box to find such delights as sulfuric acid, poisons, chlorine gas ingredients, stuff you can make meth with, and even uranium. Come again? Yep. For the full atomic educational experience you really needed to handle radioactive material. I mean, the enclosed Geiger counter should help your little ones avoid any mishaps. Right? Right? So why were children behind exposed to hazardous chemicals which were on sale in all good toy shops? The answer was pretty serious. Chemistry was seen as a great job option for boys. Starting in 1914, chemistry sets were made available for them to give the role a try. And if you're wondering where girls fit into this equation, they got their own sets, but these didn't hit shelves until the 1950s, long after the Second World War had altered perceptions about what women could do. By the 1960s, people were getting jumpy about these exciting yet injury-causing playsets. It was clear that the business of an activity, such as building batteries, was practical for young minds, but it was also far from a game. With the dangers too big to ignore, the situation became a lot less explosive. As in literally. Mom and dad could breathe a sigh of relief as their pride and joy didn't have to be watched all the time in case they burned a hole in the carpet or worse. Number 2. Operation Tumbler Snapper. Ask anyone what presents the greatest danger to humanity, and a fair number of people would respond with the answer, nuclear weapons. The USA, for example, is primed to defend itself against nukes from other countries. And of course, to defend against nukes, you have to have your own nukes. A nuclear weapon is a mind-blowingly powerful part of any nation's arsenal, and its harmful effects have been witnessed across the globe. It's seen as a last resort, and with good reason. You drop a bomb and it can irradiate the environment for generations. One of the most chilling aspects of going nuclear, it seems to us, is that nuclear weapons are just like other weapons. How so? Well, like other weapons, they need to be tested. How do you go about testing a devastating weapon of this kind? In the case of America, it had to do that on home turf. Specifically, a famous, or should that be infamous, test site at Nye County in Nevada. You'd think that the middle of a desert would be the perfect location to set off a nuke, but consider this. The site is approximately 65 miles away from Las Vegas, a populated area that isn't too far away, at least as far as a nuclear blast is concerned. In 1952, some tests were conducted under the bizarre name of Operation Tumbler Snapper. This referred to the two phases of the test. For Tumbler, there were 3 airdrops. Snapper consisted of just 1 drop, but with 4 of what are known as tower shots. These towers can be glimpsed in photographic evidence from the tests. Check out this eerily beautiful, but also horrifying image of a device detonation. In total, over 1,000 tests of this nature were carried out, and the people these weapons were intended to protect wound up contaminated in some cases. There's just no safe way of doing this kind of thing, it seems, which makes it incredibly dangerous. Number 1. The elephant's foot. What exactly are we looking at here? It looks like a weird, blurry, blobby, column-shaped object. No wonder they refer to this thing as the elephant's foot. It wouldn't look out of place on Dumbo. Mind you, if Dumbo was near this thing, they'd be dead pretty soon. Sorry for the nightmarish image, but we're just trying to underline how truly dangerous this elephant's foot actually is. It's actually regarded as the most dangerous thing on the planet. By now, you're probably desperate to know what it is. Well, if we reveal its location, you'll get a good idea. You see, the elephant's foot is to be found in Ukraine, in the notorious area of Chernobyl, the town that made headlines when its nuclear power plant suffered a catastrophic meltdown in 1986. And it comes as no surprise to hear that you can't just go in and sweep away the remains of the planet's worst nuclear disaster. The elephant's foot is a concentrated mass of nuclear material, plus other stuff such as concrete that tried to contain it but failed spectacularly. The mixture simply isn't suitable for being anywhere near human beings. Those brave enough to get reasonably close are clad in protective suits. They tried taking pictures, and the radiation is so powerful, it messes with the image quality. What might happen if you were unfortunate enough to be in the vicinity of the elephant's foot? Nothing good, that's for sure. In fact, you whittle down your life expectancy to an incredible 2 days by being in its presence for as little as 5 minutes. The most worrying thing about this super dangerous object is there isn't much authorities can do about it. Just leave it alone. There isn't a substance tough enough to make something seal it in. People are praying the Chernobyl environment is enough to hold this thing in check until the radiation subsides. How long will that be? Oh, only around 100,000 years. So it looks like the elephant's foot is going to take a while to burn out before some other terrible threat takes its place. Cheery thought, right? Thanks for watching. Are there any totally dangerous objects you think should have been on the list? Let us know in the comments. Be sure to subscribe and see you soon.